It's 1898. The USS Maine explodes in Havana Harbor, and America is hurtling towards war with Spain. In Washington, the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, a man brimming with ambition and a belief in the strenuous life, resigns his post. His name is Theodore Roosevelt, and he has a vision: to lead a volunteer cavalry regiment into battle. He co-founds the first United States Volunteer Cavalry, a unit that becomes a living snapshot of America at the turn of the century. They were a bizarre, eclectic mix. Ivy League athletes and glee club singers from the East Coast stood shoulder to shoulder with cowboys, miners, and lawmen from the southwestern territories. This regiment, united by a thirst for adventure, would become immortalized under one name: the Rough Riders. Their legend was forged in the sweltering heat of Cuba, but the reality was far grittier than the myth. The first shock came before they even saw combat. Due to logistical chaos, most of their horses never left the docks in Florida. America's most famous cavalry unit would have to fight almost entirely on foot, earning the less glamorous nickname Wood's Weary Walkers. Their defining moment came on July 1st at the Battle of San Juan Heights. Roosevelt, one of the few on horseback, led a chaotic, desperate charge up a smaller adjacent rise known as Kettle Hill. The image of him, sword drawn, rallying his men against fortified Spanish positions would be seared into the national consciousness. It was the stuff of legend. But it's a legend with a glaring omission. Fighting alongside the Rough Riders, and in many cases ahead of them, were the seasoned professional soldiers of the 9th and 10th U.S. Cavalry, all-black regiments known as the Buffalo Soldiers. These veterans bore the brunt of the early fighting, absorbing devastating fire and clearing the way. Some accounts state it was the 10th Cavalry that led the final push to the crest of Kettle Hill. Their valor was undeniable. One Washington Post reporter wrote at the time, "If it had not been for the Negro cavalry, the Rough Riders would have been exterminated." Roosevelt himself would acknowledge their bravery, but only in passing and often through the racist lens of his era, suggesting they fought well only when led by white officers. In the heroic narrative he crafted in his best-selling book after the war, their role was minimized. His story was the one that stuck. The war lasted just a few months, but the fame of the Rough Riders propelled Roosevelt into a political stratosphere. He became governor of New York, then vice president, and finally president of the United States, all on the back of his carefully curated image as the hero of San Juan Hill. For over a century, that heroic image has dominated our memory. But history is not a static monument. In recent years, we've begun to look closer. We see the statue of Roosevelt on horseback, flanked by a walking indigenous man and an African man, being removed from the Museum of Natural History in New York. This act wasn't an erasure of history, but a reckoning with it. It forces us to confront Roosevelt's belief in racial hierarchies and the imperial ambitions that the war represented. The story of the Rough Riders is no longer a simple tale of American bravado. It's a more complex story about who gets to be a hero, whose contributions are remembered, and whose are quietly written out of the pages. It's the story of a nation grappling with its own identity, a story that is, in many ways, still being told.